Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Temporally Scripted. So today's episode is all about habits and protocols. And of creatures of habit and good health, myself and Adam thought we would bring you an episode. And also, this one should be quite smooth because we recorded it once and somebody maybe screwed up the recording on Riverside. So we never got to publish it. So this is our second run through, which means we're very well very well prepared. Habits. Ones that work, ones that don't, ones that maybe we started for 2 weeks and then never did them again. Welcome back, Adam. It's great to see you here, my friend.
It's always a pleasure to be here, as always.
Yeah. It would be weird if I was here on my own. That's for sure.
Just talking to yourself. And one of us messed up recording. I don't know who.
Yeah, exactly. I do have a podcast which is just me, but I just keep it personal and listen. It's what I listen to at night before I go to sleep.
Okay, it's nothing narcissistic or weird about that in any way.
Absolutely not. No, it might be repeating great things about me and myself and how much I love myself. But yeah, maybe that's not true. And I just made it up randomly on the fly. Anyway.
But who knows? Yeah. So habits, it's quite an interesting topic, really.
Yeah.
So how about yourself? Have you cultivated any good habits and routines over the years? Say, if you compared some of your habits now that you think would be good ones compared to ones 10, 20 years ago that maybe not so great.
There was certainly some habits 10 or 20 years ago, but we won't go into those ones. But yeah, I definitely managed to brush my teeth twice a day and I don't pick my clothes out of a pile in the corner. So that's an improvement.
That's pretty slick. Have you told your mum about this? She must be very proud.
This is it. And actually, my mum used to bring my clothes to me when I was 17 in my last year of secondary school, about 15 minutes before the bus arrived. So my early years of cultivating habits weren't the best because my mum, great person, wonderful woman, and she always wanted me to be able to enjoy my childhood right up until the moment that I was kicked out of the door. So I never had to wash any pots. I didn't have any chores. I didn't even tidy my own bedroom before the age of 18 and moving out. So when I was cast into my own house.
Oh, that would be quite a shock.
Yeah, a lot of it was doing things as it became critically urgent. For example, washing pots at the moment there are no pots to live from, and basically just washing the pots that you need and leaving the rest of it in a big pile by the sink, in the sink, under the sink, around the bed.
I remember being in student halls and we had a similar situation. I don't know why, but so you'd have all the different like bedrooms and then a communal kitchen. And that was on like each floor in like a big block or several big blocks. For some reason, our kitchen always seemed to be the kind of party kitchen. And so it would just never get cleaned or anything. You'd go in there and if you're in shoes, like your shoes would start coming off because the floor was sticky. And at one point there was this, like someone had left a bowl of baked beans on the counter on the side and they were there. Then they started smelling like really bad, then really smelling, and they got moldy and things. And then eventually the mold had gone, the beans had gone, and there was just like a little layer of gray brown dust.
So you gave it a quick wipe and chipped in beans again.
Some more beans in. Bob's your uncle.
I remember I've been in a few student kitchens like that around the Nottingham area. Did you go to university in Nottingham?
I did, yeah, Nottingham Trent.
Yeah, so I've probably been in some of those halls of residence. And I remember, yeah, all of the individual rooms have a lock on the door. And then you've got like a big communal sitting area, which is usually where the pre-lash and post-lash drinks happen. And yeah, those were the kind of habits we had back then. going to bed when the sun comes up, all of these kind of things, nipping down to bargain booze to make sure that you'd consumed at least a week's worth of units before you left the house
Yeah.
to go to a nightclub, because the drinks in the nightclub would be cheap because it's student night, but still you don't want to be paying for more than one or two of them.
Yeah, there's that thing. It's like Andrew Huberman's got this thing about doing daylight viewing. So for at least like 5 minutes, like in the morning, in the first 20 minutes of waking, you should expose yourself to sunlight and not stare at the sun, but let your eyes take in daylight. But I don't think he meant that as in 6 a.m. when you've been up all night. I don't know. I think it's usually ideally after 7 or 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, not like wearing sunglasses on your way back from whatever student night kicks out at 6 a.m. They say that the pubs and clubs and restaurants and stuff in the UK have closed down because taxes and VAT and everything else being higher than it ever was. Really, I think it's just students pre-drinking before they go out and then listening to free music and spending like a total of £6 on a night out.
It could be.
Yeah,
a student loan well spent.
And if you look back to those days then in your 20s, so that's sleeping habits, never sleeping at the same time, sometimes not sleeping at all. What about eating habits? Obviously, baked beans are a staple of every student's diet, but what was your diet like back in your 20s? If you can remember that far back.
Varied. Yeah, pretty varied. Obviously, I used to sometimes eat this thing, but a lot of people said looked gross. But I'd get super noodles.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I found a way to cook all of this in the microwave at the same time, but it would be, or sometimes in one pan, but it would be a mix of super noodles, baked beans, and tuna fish. And sometimes for extra, give it an extra, I don't know, je ne sais quoi, they'd put like a cheese slice on top.
Oh, nice. That reminds me of, I used to go out with this girl in my 20s and she used to cook like pasta in the microwave. So get a bowl of water and then just put the pasta in the water and just cook it in the microwave, and then put in like the vegetables and the other stuff into the water as it was getting hotter, and then produce this whole meal in a bowl in the microwave. Microwave cookery. I never knew that was a thing growing up.
Yeah, which I guess it was. That just reminded me of something I saw the other day. There's a dude I follow. I don't go on him much now, but X, called Chef Reactions, and it's like a chef reacting to various like terrible TikTok cookery videos. But one of them was this woman where she'd got like a jar, dry pasta, fills it up with water, sticks it in the dishwasher, and then another one, just like a raw chicken breast, bit of water, seals it up, puts it in the dishwasher, washes the dishes, pulls it out, and it's done. It did actually cook, but wow, looked like the worst, just anything ever. And no seasoning, no nothing, just. But yeah, anyway.
One appliance cookery. Wow. That's special. That's special. So yeah, if I look back, for me, I would eat pretty well when I ate, but a lot of the time I would just skip meals and skip breakfast and whatever else. And by the time I was 29, I weighed about 9 stone if it had been raining, and I'd picked up a bit of extra water in my hair that was down to my shoulders. Probably had a kilo or two. But I do remember once opening a pretty empty looking cupboard at my house, and I was even working by this time, so I can't even blame it being a student lifestyle. It's carried over for 6 or 7 years after I dropped out of university, and I made something called, there was a jar of Patak's Madras sauce and there was pasta. So I invented Madrasta.
Was it a disaster?
It needed some extra seasoning, I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I guess there would be something missing. Kind of reminds me of something I used to make. So for a little while, mid-20s, must have been like from about 25 onwards, but I had a good probably 5 years where I used to cook this thing where it was like for breakfast, but it would basically be like curried rice. So I'd take like onions, garlic, ginger, some vegetables, eggs, rice, cook it all together, like lots of like curry spices and flavorings, like some nuts and seeds, and basically just loads of stuff, some dried fruit and things, all in this one thing. And it was like healthy. There was a girl I knew at the time, and she came around when I was cooking one time, and she said, "Oh, wow, I've been looking into like Ayurvedic medicine, and it's pretty much this." It's like, all right, okay, cool. I accidentally discovered some kind of miracle health rice. But yeah, for a while, that used to be like my go-to breakfast. And like, so yeah, it was always like, not always, but for a long time, I had something kind of healthy-ish going off.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, but nice there, you're like channeling some kind of past life where you were a yogi somewhere in the Himalayas, the foothills of the Himalayas. But yeah, I agree with you. I think because I was quite lucky in the fact that I was brought up by decent parents, like always growing up, there would be a good meal. Like my dad every day, if I got home from the bus, I'd be met with like dippy egg and soldiers, and that would be like the snack. And then dinner would always be at least two vegetables, a starchy veg, like potatoes or something, and then meat, whether it be a stew or some kind of steak. So I always had a decent meal when I got home after the banana bubbles for breakfast or whatever. And yeah, I feel like it gave me that grounding of at least having something reasonably healthy. So my eating habits in my 20s were pretty good too.
Yeah, and again, it's like a kind of habit, I guess. So it's once those habits are formed, you want to keep them, or they seem like the standard for a while. But I know there's definitely times of life where some of those habits kind of slide. Student life definitely being one of those.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think that I was always striving to go to the gym and to do all of these extra things, but I found it very challenging in my 20s to stick to any of those things. And I don't know about you, but usually it's because I would bite off so many different habits in one go that it would be impossible to keep it up. So I'd be like, I'm going to learn this language and go to the gym every day and wake up at this time and eat really healthily and do this and this other habit. And I'll read every day and I'll journal and I'll do this and I'll do that. And then for 2 weeks, I'm living like a god, basically.
Right.
It's like for 2 weeks, like I'm doing everything. I'm nailing it. And I'm telling everybody, I'm like, yeah, look at you. You don't have any habits, losers. Like, and I'm there.
Look at me,
I'm doing this
on a daily basis.
And then after 2 weeks, it would be like, he'd gradually have a lazy day and start to fall off and then just go back to the other way. And I think some of that is because your habit is not doing all of those things. So it's like one of these concepts where I learned from a book called Atomic Habits, and I learned it many years before I actually applied it. But it's like just doing the smallest thing to get started. So the example story he gives is one of the guys is trying to get fit at the gym, and he's like super overweight and he's never been to the gym before, and he keeps trying to go, and then he starts and it falls off every time. So what he tells him to do is to just start packing his gym bag every day. So initially, yeah, so the guy like packs his gym bag, and then after a few days he like takes the gym bag and puts it in the car, and then after a week or two he takes the gym bag and puts it in the car and drives to the gym. And then at some point he's just, oh, I'm at the gym, I might as well go in. And just by doing that every day, you get there. And another example he gives is like yoga. You just get the mat out. You just get the yoga mat out every day. And even if you don't do any, you roll it back up and put it away. Or even if it's like reading, you just read one page and then put it away.
Yeah.
And I think that.
So I was just going to say, I think a really good one for that as well is diet. So it's like everyone eats basically the same 5 meals each week, more or less. It varies, but like most people, it's about the same 5 things that they kind of cycle and repeat, and it's those go-to meals. If, say, this weekend you ask ChatGPT to come up with a recipe that's healthy, involves the ingredients that you like, doesn't take long to make, then you've learned something new. You then substitute that in next week. And then all of a sudden, if your diet was quite unhealthy, you've then got one slightly healthier thing. But also, because it tastes good, you look forward to the following week or 2 weeks later, you can substitute in something else. After a couple of months, you've completely changed your entire diet to a much healthier alternative. And again, it doesn't take that whole do everything all at once. It's just like little bits at a time. Because I think generally when people go, that's it, I'm changing my entire life right now, it's like Dave Goggins can do that. Most people aren't Dave Goggins. And it's most people, it's would do it. And like you say, it's that 2 week thing. You're feeling pretty good, confident, and then everything just, you get some kind of burnout or like breakdown from it or something like that. And just, yeah, everything falls apart.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's obviously a bit of resistance from your body because everything's a habit, whether it's a good habit or a bad habit, and our brains are designed to keep us in the place that's safe. So when you start to change these things, you push yourself out of your comfort zone, and if you push yourself too far out of your comfort zone, you hit the ceiling of that, and you're going to drag back into where you were before. And I think that for me was the biggest change. It was like slowly moving habits from one place to another. It was also getting sick and tired of not having any good routines or habits and just generally having a poor quality of life as a result, which I think age is part of that as well. As you get older, you start to be able to be more disciplined with routines and stuff. But I generally believe that, yeah, overloading yourself is where most people fail and why they get stuck in the same patterns. There's also, I don't know if you've heard of this, but every year they calculate what date in January it will be that everybody pretty much is 90% of people have given up on whatever resolutions they've chosen.
Yeah. And it will be sometime in January as well.
It is. It's like the 18th or between the 18th and the 21st. As I understand it, they calculate it every year based on a load of factors. But there's like this date, if you carry on past this date, then, you know, it's a good thing. And I think being careful about what you select for that period is important. Because the other thing you have to remember is for most people in January, particularly given the state of the world and economy, taxation, all of these things, like January is the worst month ever. You've got the biggest credit card bill coming through your door. You've got like it's the coldest time of the year for most people in the northern hemisphere. Like you've got the longest between paydays because your company helpfully paid you before Christmas so you could spend more of your money and then have to wait until the end of January. And then you're like, do you know what else? I'm just going to stop eating all the food that I like and go to the gym extra early, 2 hours earlier than I normally wake up. And then to reward myself, I'm going to force myself to not look at any TV or have any dopamine at all in any way.
Yeah.
And I might quit smoking and drinking as well, because why not?
It is basically that, yeah. Because, and you've had that sort of, it's a little bit like when people get holiday blues and things like that. You go on holiday, come back to work, and then feel down for like a week or two afterwards because you've had that freedom and the sort of dopamine thing. And it's like that in January. You've had the two biggest holidays of the year being New Year's and Christmas. And then after that, it's and then plus, like you say, you look at your bank account and you're like, oh, that's not very much. And then you start to have, I don't know, what do you call it, like buyer's remorse or something like that, because you've spent all this money on stuff, and then you're like, was it worth it to buy that many like snacks and just indulgent bits of food and everything else and all these presents for people that most of them have just thrown in the bin or rewrapped for someone else the following year or thrown in a cupboard. And also it's like the shortest days of the year as well around that time. So it's wake up, it's dark, go to work, it's dark. finish work, it's dark. I don't know.
Yeah, and also it's not only dark, it's cold. And yeah, I think that also is a huge part of it, but people taking on too much. The other thing that leads me to as well is like the thought process that when you start doing a good habit, or what we see as a good habit, you don't really notice anything. There's no instant changes, and it's not even after a long period of time. There's not like major changes. Like, granted, I've had some off time and stuff here and there where I've slipped into older habits, but over the last couple of years, I've fairly regularly gone to the gym, and I can notice the difference. My family can notice the difference. I'm a lot stronger than I was, but by no stretch of the imagination do I look gym fit. I don't look like I've still got some fat around the middle. Granted, it's gradually going. I now have a treadmill under my desk, so I can move my desk. I won't demonstrate it now, viewers.
Even though you're immensely proud of it.
Yeah, mostly because I haven't set up my affiliate link. So far, since I moved to this, because I saw someone else doing it, 3 other people bought treadmills that I know and standing desks. Anyway, but the point is, it's not like I'm suddenly like this Adonis. I think I'm still just pretty much me.
I think the gym is like that, though. It's just it's a long time of just consistency that gets results. And it's not as if like after a set amount of time, like you've been going for, I don't know, say you've been going for 10 months and 2 weeks, and all of a sudden that one extra time you come out and you go, I'm in shape now. It's this constant, like really slowly moving thing. But I guess there are ways to cheat. There's certain supplements and things you could take, or you could really
right,
or you could really max out your sort of workout routine, so you're in there 5 days a week, whatever. And you could, but then I guess there's some drawbacks to that as well. But yeah, I guess for the average like gym goer, it's just a very gradual uphill thing.
Yeah, and you get a little boost at the beginning, but again, even for just fat around the middle, I'm in much better shape than I was 2 years ago. Don't get me wrong, but it's still, you look down, it's you don't get any reward now, and it's almost the barometer that I use for good habits and bad habits. Does it feel like anything's changing? No. Okay, it's probably a good habit. Whereas if it's, I'm going to go and smoke a cigarette, you get an instant, ooh, that feels good. Or you like binge watch some Jason Statham movies or something. It's like instantly you feel pretty good and excited and entertained. Whereas if you start learning that skill and applying it that you've been waiting to do for ages, and it's like, is this even doing anything? Like, I don't feel like anything's changing. But it's that consistency over time, and we're talking years. It's years when you'll get the benefit.
Yeah, completely.
All the good stuff. And I think also with a lot of the bad habits, it's years until you'll get the downside. If you take smoking as an example, you can smoke today, and probably for 20 years you can smoke, as we know, right, from our past. But it takes that amount of time before you start being short of breath and coughing up lumps and
definitely. And it's a much more severe downside than the upside you get from good habits. But yeah, you're right. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of the sort of good habits that are just slight changes to your daily routine, whether that is like meditation or journaling or something like that, you don't notice it at first. It's the same as like actually using supplements, or even just taking like a multivitamin or something like that, or taking vitamin D. You might get sick less, or you might not get as sick when you do get sick, but you can't really tell. You've got nothing to measure that against. And you're doing something, and you're so good. Is this doing me any good? I don't know. And like you, and say if you're doing like meditation and you've done other things like sort your life out as well, you're in a naturally better headspace. but you don't know because it's not like an on-off switch. It's not like, oh, I did meditation yesterday, I feel amazing today. I didn't do meditation today, I'm fried. There isn't like, you can't test it because it's like gradual build-up
Yeah, and
of
it's
daily
consistent.
practice.
Yeah, consistent action over days. And I think that's why if you miss one day, then as long as you get back to something the day after, or you do it in some way, some level, even if it's only the smallest amount, then that over time, it's just that micro change of course. And over time, that becomes bigger and bigger, and you end up like over here rather than over here. And every day it might just be moving an inch apart from where you were previously. But it's those small, consistent changes and intention that makes all of that difference. And I think that's something to remember is like people, if you are trying to change a habit or you're trying to move something, it's a big deal. You're recreating new neural pathways in your mind. And as we repeat a habit, that neural pathway just gets deeper and deeper. So if you're someone who ate badly for 20 years, that neural pathway is like, it's always going to be there. And sometimes you're going to slip back into it. The same with drinking or smoking or whatever. At some point, you might slip back into it. And some things go hand in hand. Like for me, if I drink alcohol now, like I went pretty much 5 months at the start of this year without drinking alcohol. And then I a couple of times did. And then over the last 3 weeks, because it was my daughter's birthday, my son's birthday, it's my birthday this weekend, it's summer, it's all of those excuses and feelings. But I drank 5 or 6 times, like fairly heavily over the last 5-6 weeks.
I don't know if any of that sounds like excuses, because I don't know if your son or daughter were like, oh, I hope dad gets some beers down him today because it's my birthday. I'll be absolutely gutted if you didn't join in the party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, this is it. And it's like, it's occasion. You're like related to an occasion or a time that makes you think that's okay. Now I could sit there and be like, all this time I was doing so well and kicking myself up. Or I could just be like, do you know what? If the only times of year I drink are around everyone's birthday at the end of August and at Christmas, and if nothing else, I had a good time and then it reminds me why I don't do that every other day of the year, then so be it. Do you know what I mean? It's like part of it is learning to be kind to yourself and to not beat yourself up and give yourself abuse. I think the biggest part of all these habits and these changes is having a better relationship with yourself and just accepting that sometimes you might not do the perfect thing all the time. And also, it almost becomes a bad habit by being too neurotic about the things you must do because you have all these good habits now.
Yeah, and also being overly self-critical, which is important in some ways, but I don't know personally the balance of how strict you should be with all kinds of different aspects of life, or whether you should be like really on it and it's like, all right, no fun, I'm just being serious about everything and criticizing yourself if you like mess it up at some point. Or should you just go, I'm human, I'm allowed to make mistakes. Usually I'm pretty good with everything, but last night I went out, I went to the pub, had a great time, saw some friends, did some socializing, had fun. Do I feel like crap today? Definitely. But on the whole, there was something good from that experience. And I think a lot of things like that, again, we've talked about it before, but it's like moderation that we need to have. And I think that's the key to everything, really.
Totally. Yeah. And I think particularly once that tide has turned, I believe that there's a whole momentum about this. Is say if you're like, at the minute your habits are terrible and you've got maybe 70% bad habits and 30% good. As long as you start trying to tip that balance, like as soon as you get to 51%, it all becomes a bit easier because that's like your normal way of being. You've broken the old way that's normal, which is coming home and eating fast food, drinking beer, never exercising, going to bed when you want, waking up when you want. That's not the normal you anymore. And
completely.
Even like that, if I go on holiday now, sometimes in the morning off the balcony, I'll have a coffee and I'll have a cigarette because I'm on holiday. And people will go, that means you're still addicted or whatever. Yeah, maybe on some level I am. but I used to smoke 20, 30 cigarettes every day for 10 years of my life. And now I smoke if I'm drinking or if I'm on holiday, and I just fancy that feeling. And I could just go, that's it. You need to go and read more books and do more this and figure out more stuff about how to not do that. But for what?
Yeah. And that might naturally change over time as well. But yeah, just that's pretty much sorted to a level. It's would it be healthier for you if you never smoked a cigarette again? Yeah, definitely. But if it's down to like such a small amount, is it something to worry about? Is there probably other major things to change in life that are more important than that? Maybe. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like it's a big thing.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So if we start breaking this down into some practical things, right? Say if you're sat listening to this now and you're like, okay, I've got all these things going on in my life. I don't sleep at the right time. My diet's terrible. I don't exercise. I'm drinking a lot, whatever. What do you think is the foundational habit, in your opinion, for starting to turn your life around and change your life?
It depends on the individual and where they're at and all that kind of thing. For me, I think there's two. One I can speak from experience. One is just hypothetical because I've heard other people talk about it. So I'll pretend I know about it and I'm the expert, but everyone thinks I am.
That's what I was hoping for.
So one, I think, is definitely exercise. Like you mentioned about with Atomic Habits, just like working up to it if you need to. But I think generally once you start exercising on a regular basis, it changes everything else. It changes some of your outlook because you're deliberately putting yourself in a place where you might be out of your comfort zone and you're going to go and do something very difficult until your body's exhausted. After that, other difficult things in life seem to become easier. So I think from there, it's easier to make changes with other things and just generally be happier. You're getting endorphins and things going around your body because of the exercise you're doing. It's changing hormone levels. It's doing all kinds of good things. And then as a knock-on from that, you're going to want to eat more, probably, but you start to become a bit more health conscious and you're naturally drawn towards healthier food. And again, all of these things, so when you do that as well, you're just getting better nutrients, less sort of toxins. And so just everything starts to become, I think, better in your mind and in your outlook on life and all of these kinds of things, really. So my main one, I'd say, would, if you don't, then exercise. And the second one I would say is sleep, because I think sleep is probably the most important thing. There's so many different health problems or life problems, which for the majority of people, you could say, all right, so what's going on? Wow, how's your sleep? How many hours are you sleeping? And someone would be like, oh, yeah, get about 5 hours. It's all right. It's not enough. And it's sleep that yeah, messes a lot of people up because so many of us are stressed. Not me personally, getting up early for my career, but many people are and running around and things. And it's, yeah, sort out your sleep, get that in, get your circadian rhythms right. So it's same time every morning and every night. And I think that's a really major one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the biggest thing of all out of anything and almost the easiest one to implement is sleep. If it's not that difficult to, even if right now you sleep at midnight, right? It's like you just start to lock in a regular sleeping time. So it's like, okay, I'm going to sleep at 11. Like I worked with this guy before. He was one of my old bosses, Chris Williams, who was one of the most inspirational people I've ever worked for. He was just such a good dude. And I learned loads from him. But he used to say every hour you get before midnight is worth double, basically. Because I used to go to bed at 12, 1, come into work, and obviously you're tired, right? If you stay up till that kind of night, that time of night with your good friend Mary most evenings, it's one of those things where you know you're going to be sleepy, you're going to be tired. So I feel like that is a huge thing. And then once you set in the bedtime, a lot of people, I think, get it the wrong way around. They go, okay, I'm going to get up at 6 every day. So they like try and get up at 6 and they don't do anything about what time they go to sleep. I actually think the best thing to do is forget what time you wake up. Obviously, if you've got work or whatever, set your alarm for the last possible moment. But start trying to go to bed an hour earlier or 2 hours earlier. And even if you can't sleep straight away, as long as you've not got your phone in there, you're not watching TV, the lights are off, it might take you 45 minutes to sleep, but you're going to fall asleep. And then naturally, you'll start to wake up earlier before the alarm.
The thing with that as well is, yeah, you could go to bed earlier. A lot of people, what they do is, okay, I'm going to get to sleep now. And then start, I'm still not sleepy. I'm not falling asleep. And start getting stressed out about it. And like, the thing is not to try. Just go to bed, relax, and just enjoy the feeling of being relaxed. And just go, it's nothing to do. It's nothing to think about. It's nothing to worry about. Just relax. And eventually you'll just fall asleep. But people do it a lot when they can't sleep. Just start thinking, oh, I can't sleep. I'm going to be so tired tomorrow. And it's like, all the stress hormones are like raging through the body. And it's, you're not going to sleep now.
Yeah, this is it. I did hear a trick for that, which worked quite well for me before, because now I go to bed at 8 o'clock. I'm in bed at 8. I listen to a podcast or whatever, or I
temporally scripted.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite podcast, or my own personal podcast. But yeah, I listen to that, or I'll read a book depending on how tired I am. We'll come on to books in a little bit, because I think there's also a bit of like a mental masturbation about taking in too much information and not ever taking any action on it. I think I went through that quite a bit in my 20s. But my point of that is that I go to bed at 8 o'clock, and by 9 o'clock, I'm usually asleep or falling asleep or ready to sleep. And then I wake up at 4:45, 4:30 in the morning, usually without my alarm. So that kind of, it works. But the way I got to that is by just going to bed earlier consistently, just making sure I was in bed earlier.
Yeah, which would be the way to do it. And like you say, not needing an alarm clock, because you're well rested, you've had enough sleep, and also you're in the rhythm of waking up at that time.
Yeah. And I realized I missed my point. So what I was going to say about the thing that mentions when people get really stressed out and they're thinking to themselves, oh, I need to do this, and what about this, and all of this stuff. Just tell yourself that you don't care if you sleep or not. Just be like, all right, we're just going to lie here awake. I don't care if I fall asleep or not. It doesn't matter. We're just going to stay awake all night. And that tricks yourself into falling asleep for some reason.
Yeah, I guess that would work. Because you're getting to that thing of just relax. And your brain tells your body it's fine. And yeah.
What will be. Yeah. And then, so back to personal experience of getting into exercise and stuff. I think for me, I'd sporadically tried to do different bits of exercise before I was like 35 really, but never really stuck to much. And then for me, it was like, I'm just going to go and start walking every day.
Okay.
And I just started doing like a 30-minute walk every day. And then that walk, I started putting like a bag of weights on my back. So I was carrying like 20 kg and walking like 4 or 5 kilometers. And then that led to starting to jog a little bit. And then that led to running, right? So again, it's like, there's nothing rocket science about it. It's like, just go and do that. And at least then you're moving, you're getting your body moving, there's some kind of physical exercise, and you're trying to hit 10K steps in a day, and you don't care about how fast you're going or anything like that. And once I did that and I quit smoking, my resting heart rate was like 85 beats per minute or something crazy when I was smoking and not doing any exercise. And like really quickly, it would drop down to 65, 64, like within quite a short period of time, really.
Yeah, that's really good. It sounds like you really not eased your way into it, but yeah, it began with like small things and then slowly developed into more. It's really cool. It's a good way to do it.
Just doing something. And then obviously then you, like you said, you don't want to go running and then smoke, or you don't want to go running and then come home and drink beer, or go to the gym and do those things. It just feels wrong. Like, why have I just gone and spent an hour?
I remember going to a gym a couple of years ago, and it's like the treadmill faced the window but looked onto the street, and then directly over the road there was like a mini mart that just mainly sold like alcohol, and there was just all these crates of beer outside, and I always just felt like I was running towards them anytime I was on the treadmill.
So that's the other tip, guys. Yeah, if you're struggling, just get like a ring around your head with a stick on it, and hang like a can of beer or some snacks on it, and just chase that down the road, and that'll make all the difference. So yeah, I think
like a Cheeto was just
yeah, I think that's the order. Is for me, it's sleep, and then it's food, and then it's exercise. I think that's like how to get your shit together, basically. The how to get your shit together temporally scripted Saturday afternoon playbook. Link to which is in the comments.
Because I think we did come up with a list of a few different like habits and techniques that can help, but I think actually covering exercise, sleep, and diet, they're the main ones. Everything else is like a really good add-on, but it will definitely have more effect if the main three things are already in order. Because
totally,
it's like you can have all the best routines and different things that you want, but if you're sleeping really odd hours, eating terribly, and massively just not doing anything at all in terms of exercise, it's the extra good things that you try don't really have the same impact, I think.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, they're almost like secondary to these foundational steps of what you need to do. I think there's a key part that we've missed here, and I think we've covered all of the things that we've talked about are very much physical. Of course, the sleeping is both, it's mental and physical. But I do think then after these kinds of things, one practice that is very easy to do and totally life-changing is journaling about your gratefulness, like what you're grateful for, and showing gratitude is a massive one.
Yeah, for sure. And I think journaling, yeah, it does take a little bit more of a commitment. But one simple thing that you just mentioned is gratitude, just being thankful for certain things. And you don't even have to go into so much depth with it, really. Just write it on a post-it note, stick it on your desk or on your fridge or something like that, just saying, what are you thankful for today? Do it like once or twice a day, and you'll think of something in your life that's really good. More than likely, while you're trying to think about things, you're thinking of several different things at the same time that you're actually thankful for. And it does change your outlook on life. It makes you feel more like a lucky person that things work out for, rather than someone who's just had the council tax bill drop through the letterbox and the cat's just gone to the toilet on the rug or whatever it may be. Instead of all the negative things, you're going, oh, but I've got all this good stuff happening.
Yeah, even you just saying that reminds me of what a cynical, like, I was in my 20s, because that kind of, when you said that, it's like, what are you thankful for today? It reminds me of like when you go in someone's bathroom and they've got one of these like phrases, smile, be happy, or whatever. Yeah. And the me of my 20s would be like, what a load of old shit that is. What a load of crap that is. Who
Some
cares
cynical
about...
old man.
Yeah, but a cynical, more young man. I think back then it's like you almost try and find reasons for not sticking to the habits and trying to improve stuff. It's or a load of rubbish or whatever. But now I totally can imagine as I sit down on my morning throne and look up, and there's a nice doily style image that says, "What are you thankful for today?" I could see my bathroom sporting that. And me avoiding taking my phone to the toilet so that I can muse about.
Exactly, yeah. Don't be one of
What-
them people that take your phone to the bathroom.
And it can be anything. I think this is the thing that quite often we take stuff for granted because there's so many things going on in the world and things are more expensive than they ever were before. And you have the council coming along now in the UK, apparently charging people to collect garden waste. And they're like, oh, it was free, but now we're going to start charging you. So you have to call this number. It's like, it was never free. When was it free? What? Oh, so my council tax has gone down now. I'm paying for it from this. Oh no, my council tax has gone up. It's gone up as well as it. So you're charging me more to do less. Okay, cool. But like, even with all that said, there's enough people in the world that have to like share a toilet with 50 or 100 or 1,000 other people in a village, and that toilet is just like a wooden shack with like a board and a hole in it, and you're like pooing into the water that you have to wash in and drink from and play in and whatever else.
I've been to Stanton before.
I've been to some house parties in Stanton as well. Yeah. But even something as simple as like having a clean place where nobody's going to bother you to use the toilet. Or quite often I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh man, this $1,000 mattress is awesome. So glad that I bought this, because it's a lot of people just don't have those kinds of luxuries.
Yeah, completely. And I guess even if you do journaling, that's like an extension of that in some ways. Because as I understand it, or what I learned through like trading and things, is that you journal things, but you never, there's no like negative self-talk. You can say, oh, this could have been better or something like, but never like say anything bad about yourself. So it's like a constant encouragement, but in the right direction, and learning from things that haven't worked and seeing them as like, seeing a mistake more as something you've learned rather than as something that's like your fault, something terrible, whatever. It's like reframing things into a more positive light.
Yeah, and it's something you can do periodically. So the reason I said journaling is actually because I do my gratitude in there. I write 3 statements a day, and then I write about what I want my subconscious to focus on, and that I want a restful and restorative night's sleep and stuff. Because again, telling yourself that stuff, your brain doesn't know the difference really between it. You've put it there, it's been written, there's some power. But what you just said there is funny because it reminds me, I saw a short yesterday. I'd seen it years before, but I saw it again where it's Quentin Tarantino. And he's talking about how he's hanging around with all these dudes, and like they all just go away in the end because they're just like whatever, don't care about their lives, just drinking, whatever. And he said that the way he dealt with that in his 20s was he used to do like a Quentin hate session where he'd just stay up all night and write down like all the things that he was doing that are not good enough or that are wrong, or like all of his habits. And he'd just sit and have a full session of, this is like the Quentin hate state or something. I can't remember the exact words, but obviously it's Tarantino, so it's something cool. And then he said, but then instead of writing them all down and then just going to bed in the morning and forgetting about it, he'd then sit and think of a solution to all of these things. Like, how can I fix this problem? How can I improve this thing? What action can I take? And he says that's what changed his whole life and his trajectory. And obviously he's now one of the most famous writers, screenwriters, producers, actors, all of the stuff, the cool stuff that he does. And in his own way, right? His own fully authentic, does what he wants. I don't know if he's ever had to make films that he didn't want to make vibe. And all of that he puts down to these like Quentin Tarantino overnight hate sessions. So I'm not suggesting you have to sit there all night, folks, and do that. But yeah, actually, I think a lot of the time I read this recently, or I think, no, heard it recently in a book called The Mountain Is You. And she says the way to get over some of these self-sabotage things that we do is to write them all out. So the example she gave is, if you're in a bad financial situation, write down all of your debts, all of your costs, what you have to pay out every month, who you have to pay it to, and all of that. And then write down all the money you have coming in, where it's coming from, what that source looks like. And then this is the situation. Okay, so to fix the situation, I need X. And by knowing what that X is, and that's something I'm still not very good at. I know I earn plenty, but I have no idea how much I spend on random SaaS brands in a month. I know it's a lot, but I don't really have all of this stuff written down because the idea of it makes me like,
yeah. But I guess the thing is, whether it's whether it's something financial or whether it's something else, if you just have a load of vague ideas floating around in your head, you're not really ever going to identify them, pinpoint them, or make meaningful change. Whereas when you start to write things down, it seems to make it real, for one. And then from that, it's okay, so this is what's happening. Okay, if I do this thing differently, or don't spend money on this, spend it in whatever, it's like you're actually coming up with a plan. You're actually changing something rather than just going, oh, maybe I should, because you just like, I don't know, you're trying to chase some ghost or something like it isn't really there.
Yeah, and for me, that's what I think is part of manifestation and visualization and all the rest of it. Is you start to see the thing that you want to get, and then you've put that in your mind of, okay, I want to get here. And then you're almost like reverse engineering it back to, okay, so what's my next step? It's, if you're going to climb a mountain, you get the map and you look on the Ordnance Survey map and you're like, okay, there's a river here and I need to get across that bit, and maybe we'll take this path because it's less steep and it'll take us around this way, and then we need to do that, right? So then you're like, okay, and that's the top. I can see the top up there and I can see the rough plan. But then you don't start walking up the mountain like staring at the map, do you?
Yeah.
Because if you do that, you're gonna fall down a crevice or something, or step in a puddle that's a bit deeper than your boot or whatever, right? You have to go, okay, now I need to put my foot there, and there's that rock there, and then there's this thing here, and you do that for 10 minutes, and then you're like, okay, let's have a quick look and see, okay, now we must be here. Good. And the top's still there. Okay, off we go. And I think that's like the way to approach all of this stuff, and the habits sort of form part of that.
Yeah. And definitely that thing of writing things down, whether it's a form of journaling, whether it's different plans, whether it's doing like a to-do list for the week or for each day. I used to do that quite often. I did find it useful. I found that I was quite productive when at the start of each day I'd write down a list, and as you go through the day you start crossing things off. By the end of the day there might be some things that you haven't done, but it's okay, you just put them on the list for the next day and go through again. And that seemed to help me quite a lot, just because something about having things written down seems to make them more concrete.
Yeah, and I think it does two things. It takes it out of your head, so you remove an open loop that's in your mind and taking bandwidth. If you imagine your brain's a computer and you've got every idea you have is like 70 is a tab, so you've got 70 of these tabs open, and if you like write it down, you're closing one of those tabs, basically. I think that's one of the things about it. Two, I don't know if you've ever noticed that when you make a list of things to do, even if you then don't look at the to-do list, if you go back to it in a few days when you've maybe fallen off track a bit, you'll normally look at it and go, oh yeah, I've done that. That's done. This is done. Oh, and you, without even looking at the list, you're like, well, I've done all of this. And that one thing there, I didn't even need to do that in the end. So that can go as well. So there's that part of it.
Yeah.
And it's those little dopamine hits as you tick something off throughout the day too.
Definitely. And I guess with a lot of things, it depends. Yeah, it depends how much you want to do things. So I went through a phase where I was like developing lots of good habits, but all at once and trying out different ones. So I'd have things like the morning daylight viewing. So that's like maybe 5-10 minutes. I'd have meditation going off. There'd be no screens for the first 30 minutes, no caffeine for the first 90 minutes. Yeah, be writing to-do lists and meditation, different things, but it was all these different things going on. But that was just taking up like my entire morning. And so by 11 o'clock, it's like, oh, okay, I guess I can have a coffee now, and then I'll do something productive for an hour, and then it's time to go to the gym. And it was just really funny doing all these like mad things for no reason.
Yeah, that's living like a multimillionaire before you've even got to that stage. I think, yeah. So sometimes you see it with gurus where they're like, oh, this is my 4-hour morning routine. Yeah, good for you.
Because you've got literally nothing else to do.
Yeah, this is it. Like I do believe in things like waking up and doing a power hour if you've got your own business. So in that power hour, you work on the thing that is like the most important growth part of your business. So it's not like the day-to-day stuff. But then for me, like the most important thing is having conversations with people and sending messages to people, because that habit is what will bring me the biggest value and the biggest amount of money. So you're spending an hour developing the systems that mean in the future you might have to send less messages because you've built an audience, but you're making sure that you like all of those things are front loaded in your day. And it does depend a little bit. Like if you have to talk to a lot of people, I'm an extrovert. So if I have conversations with people, like I can join a call tired and wanting to go to sleep, and by the end of it, I get energy from that process. So there is a bit of that I think leads to not a warning, but a useful piece of information for the audience is you got to have it your way. There's principles that we can tell you, but if you start doing a habit and you do it for like a month and you're like, this is tiring me out, then stop. You don't have to do it that way. It's not there's a hard and fast rule. Like one example I had is I used to have a trainer at the gym and I was exhausted. Like I just couldn't function in the day-to-day because he was making me push to failure on every set, and then you have to go and eat these massive meals, so I feel like sluggish all day and all of that instead of just having high enough protein and whatever. And it was killing me. Whereas today I'm sat here now, it's 2:20 in the afternoon for me, and I've eaten 2 boiled eggs and I'm fine. I don't need more than that right now. Do you see what I mean? So I think it's a warning. Don't just take habits and chuck them into your system and expect that they'll be perfect for you. Pick a mix.
Yeah, and some things work for some people, some things don't. Should we give a little, because I guess we've got 10 minutes left or a few minutes left. Should we run through each of us and say some habits that we found helpful? And then maybe if people want to, they can look into them.
Totally. Yeah. Do you want to go first or shall I?
You go first.
Okay, cool. So for me, it's having the same bedtime every night. So I always make sure I go to bed at 8 and I have a bedtime routine. So in that last hour before bed, I don't look at any electronics. I make sure that I do my grateful list and I'll listen to or read a book. And sometimes it's fiction, sometimes it's nonfiction. Mostly it's nonfiction because that's what I prefer. And then when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I go and start thinking about my day and what I'm going to do in the day. I don't drink coffee straight away. I give myself a good hour before I drink any coffee, just so that I can wake up naturally and get fresh and all of that kind of stuff. And then for me, like I go to the gym 3 times a week, and I've started to do more compound and legs in the gym because I just bought one of those calisthenic systems at home where you can do pull-ups and push-ups and dips and all of that stuff. So I'm going to start doing that in between, but it's at least every day doing some kind of movement. And I do have my treadmill under my desk, so I end up doing like 10 to 20,000 steps a day anyway. So that just keeps me moving and keeps me working through. And then my kind of protocol for working throughout the day. So I have a list, but I also do two things. Is if something pops into my head and it's going to take less than 2 minutes and I'm not in the middle of another task, then I just do it straight away. Just get it out of the way. If it's going to take more than 2 minutes, I'll put it on my list. And I just operate like that on a daily basis. I make sure I drink plenty of water. That's a massive key for me. I notice if I don't hydrate and drink enough water in a day, I really suffer. And I pretty much just eat when I'm hungry. And when I eat, I make sure that it's high protein and low processed. I eat a lot of kimchi and stuff for my gut health and gut bacteria. And then supplementation wise, I take vitamin D, like fish oil tablets with omega-3 in it. And I also take 400 milligrams of chelated magnesium before I go to sleep each night.
Interesting.
And periodically, so every 3 or 4 days, or if I've had a session on the booze recently, I will drink LMNT electrolytes, which again is potassium, magnesium, and salt, basically sodium. And that is pretty much it. One thing I've started adding recently is I read, but when I get to something that needs to be implemented, I implement it instead of just reading to have tons of knowledge in my head. I like read a bit and it's okay, now it's a point where I need to implement whatever I've learned. So I will go and implement it. And that's my recipe for life.
That sounds really good. There's a lot of really good stuff in there. So what you mentioned about before sleep, that sounds a little bit like the 3-2-1 rule, where it's stop eating, if I get this right, stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed, no liquids 2 hours before you go to bed, so don't drink anything. And then 1 hour before bed, no screens. Which, is helpful in all kinds of ways. I always do the 3 and the 2, but I always seem to struggle with the 1. And it's not quite there. So I would say I follow a similar thing, but just not quite.
Yeah, it's a tougher one. And I think, so I've found that I struggle a bit more sometimes now with the 3 and the 2 because I don't eat as regularly. And I do need to get back into eating a breakfast and doing all of this kind of stuff. But at the minute, I'm still focused on fat loss and whatnot. Not that I'm the fattest person ever, but I want to lose more body fat so that this immense muscular being that I've created underneath can start to emerge.
The Incredible Hulk or something.
Yeah, exactly. I need a little bit of this chubbiness to, and my little man titties to disappear a bit further. the slight muffin top. So yeah, what about yourself?
Yeah, so I guess morning time, I've been a bit slack with it recently, but in the past, some people say it works, some people it doesn't. It's down to the individual, I guess, but I did find some of the Huberman things useful, like daylight viewing first thing in the morning. But I did used to smoke cigarettes, so I would go on the balcony, and that was quite easy to do in the first 5 minutes of the day.
Yeah.
But then also
habit stacking.
Yeah. Bad habit stacking. But I did actually find it was like, it did seem to work as like a wake up, like a natural way to kickstart your body, because naturally that's what humans would do: wake up, go outside, be in daylight or sunlight. On top of that, again, recently I've not been doing it so much, but it did seem like my life was better when I didn't pick up a phone or look at a screen for the first 20-30 minutes of the day. I heard a good way to think about this. It's like when you go to sleep, it's like your brain getting a software update. And if you wake up and go on Facebook straight away, you're just interfering with that software update and it's not installing properly. It's a little bit like that. It just, for some reason, it really seems like staying away from screens before bed and in the morning for a little while. It's a really good idea if you can. On top of that, things that I've used to do but haven't for a while, I found meditation really useful. I did that consistently for quite a long time and just felt just generally better. And it wasn't like huge sort of sessions or anything, just 10 minutes that I was doing for a nap, but it just seemed to bring a bit more calm and a bit more, I don't know, just, yeah, just a bit more tranquility into my life when I needed it, or if I needed it. Felt like I could just relax a bit more and put things into perspective and take a step back. And it helps with things that might be getting at you or seem really urgent or things like that, or seem really severe. It helps you take a step back in some ways and just look at them from a different angle. So I'd recommend it if someone's thinking about it and they haven't tried it. There's plenty of apps out there that are really great, or you can find things on YouTube too. Again, like we covered, a little bit of gratitude every day. That's really a good one. Same as you, I avoid caffeine for the first 90 minutes of the day because it's just a better way to wake up, and you actually get more energy out of the caffeine when you do drink it than if you hadn't, because yeah, it's like the adenosine system and cortisol, all kinds of different things that it just affects. And everyone does that thing like, all right, just woken up, right, have some coffee. And it's the worst thing to do in a way, because like an hour later, you're going to be absolutely knackered. Again, it depends on the person. One thing that I do like doing, which is one of those really simple things from Jordan Peterson, tidy your room, make your bed. Every morning, I make my bed. Sometimes I deliberately leave a couple of like random things around that I have to tidy up. First things, it's like you're taking chaos and putting it into order. And if that's one of the first things you do in the day, I think that's a good thing. I think it sets you up in a good headspace.
Yeah, I agree. I have a protocol of, and if I'm feeling a bit like down or struggling with something, I'll go and have a shave and a shower and like really just freshen everything up and put on some good fresh clothes, and also making sure my washing's put away and all of that kind of stuff is like, these simple things are just really important. Like keeping your space clean and tidy. It attracts the clean and tidiness in your mind.
Completely.
Even with 2 young kids in the house, obviously it makes that slightly more challenging. But yeah.
But I think also as well, some of those tasks, whether you like, I don't know, doing the washing up or your clothes are dry, so you're gonna take them, fold them, put them away, something like that. Those weird like little menial tasks, you don't need to think about them while you're doing them. You can on autopilot. So sometimes while you're doing them, you can be thinking of other things, and sometimes you can have like quite deep or meaningful thoughts or breakthroughs about something just while you're doing something really simple.
Totally agree with that. Yeah, because you're on autopilot mode, so you can work through these other things.
Whereas if you just sit down and go, I'm going to solve this problem now, I'm going to solve it, but I'm going to concentrate. It doesn't come. But sometimes just like letting your mind just wander while you're doing something basic. That's also why walking is such a good exercise in a way, because it's good for your body because you're doing it, but also it's good for your mind.
Exactly.
In all kinds of different ways. Apparently it's really great for depression as well.
It makes sense, and I can see running being the same as that. So yeah, it does. So there's a lot there, and thank you for sharing that, because I think between the two routines, it's like you can see the similarities, but there's also a couple of little things that I would work towards in mine, adding in terms of meditation and stuff. Again, it's almost, we could do a whole other episode on meditation and mindfulness and
I thought
all of that.
we've mentioned quite a lot of different good habits. I thought we could try the effectiveness. So I'll try all of them for 1 week, and you do the exact opposite for 1 week.
We'll compare notes. Yeah. And as it's my birthday coming up this weekend, I'm sure I can make that happen. So yeah, that's it. So thank you for sharing all of that. And I think for those of you that have listened through this, I hope you guys have got some value from it. Sleep first, make sure you eat well, and then exercise, and you can gild it with all the other things. As always, if you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, and it really helps us out to grow as a channel. And we will put all of the useful information that we've gone through today in the description. And we'll be back again next week for another episode of Temporally Scripted. But until then, Adam, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. See you next time, folks.
See you next time.